All right, hello. So my name is Lena, and I'm here with my Reiki Master Teacher, Neil Kagan, and we wanted to get some Reiki questions answered, and I just wanted to introduce my Reiki Master Teacher here. His main job is as an engineering consultant, which is a whole different world than Reiki. So he brings a special um, experience to Reiki. And at the same time, he was also a Reiki master teacher for 25 years. So, Neil, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay. Certainly. Well, thank you, Lena. Appreciate the introduction. Yeah, I've been doing Reiki for just about 25 years now. My story is maybe not unique, but I got into this because my son was born with a bad liver. He needed a liver transplant when he was 10 months old, and I was looking for, things that could help him heal. I came across Reiki. I had no idea what it was, but I thought, why not give it a try? I went to the class, I listened, I participated, did that, what they told me to do. And I left the class saying, this is the hokiest thing I've ever heard in my life. I just could not grasp the concepts. I didn't believe in the energy. However, he was my only child at that time. And, you're a little bit more open-minded, perhaps you are, in other times of your life. And I thought, well, why not give it a shot? And I still to this day remember putting my hands over him. I believe it was either that night or the next morning after his transplant. And I could actually feel the energy in my hands. And it was a turning point for me because I realized there was definitely something going on. They told us he'd be in the hospital for about a month. He was actually out in 2 weeks. His mother was the donor, and she had one of the fastest return back to normal liver values that they had seen from a donor. So I like to say there was kind of like a little seed that was planted in my brain. And then as time progressed, I wanted to learn more. I have learned, I have remained as an engineer. As you mentioned, I am a consultant now for manufacturing companies. So I live in a very logical world, but I also believe that this energy is very, very powerful. A lot of uses. Most of us use it for healing, and the benefits are just unlimited.
That was a wonderful introduction to Reiki. Thank you for that story. It's also very powerful. Um, so now I want to revisit back when I took my level 2 certification with you. You mentioned that some teachers have a particular viewpoint regarding necessary amount of time between level 1, level 2, level 3. Um, what are your thoughts on this? So just revisiting, how much time do you need between classes?
Sure. Well, that stems from some of the teachings of Mrs. Takata. For those who don't know, she was the first to openly teach Reiki in America. So all of us that learn in America have, trace our lineage through Mrs. Takata. And I believe she said you should wait between level 1 and level 2, 90 days. And certainly that's not a bad thing. You can practice, you can learn more about the energy, you can feel the energy cycles, you can feel the energy coming through your hands, you can get feedback from the people you're touching, whether it's another person or of course, you could self-treat. And so it gives you a lot of information, and certainly there's nothing wrong with that. However, like a lot of Mrs. Kata's teachings, um, we didn't know any better at the time, and over time, people have either deviated purposely or not. I was one of those ones that deviated, but I didn't do it really purposely. And when I became a teacher, the same thing happened to me. And what I'm referring to is I have actually had people come to me who do not have 90 days to live. Okay, that's how dramatic it is. So to say, oh, sorry, before you can have level 2, you've got to wait 90 days. Is there anything wrong with it? No, it's not really wrong, but is it necessary? And the answer to me is no, it is not necessary. You do not need to wait. A lot of Reiki masters do a level 1, 2, and 3 in a weekend. And you know what? They do just as well as the ones that did wait. I know people have waited a year between levels. Is it necessary? I don't believe so.
That's very good to know and very informative regarding people who might not have the time to work with the 90 days. Um, okay, my second question for you is what is the highest level of Reiki? How many levels do you need to get there?
Right. Again, good question. Lots of debates here. Uh, Dr. Asui, who we referred to as the rediscoverer of the energy, um, I don't believe had levels. I believe the levels came from Dr. Hayeshi, one of his disciples, if I recall that correctly. Um, and he had 3 levels. And still to this day, the majority worldwide teaches 3 levels. However, I've heard other things, such as there are 7 levels, one for each chakra, main chakra. I mean, I've heard everything from there's 300 and something, levels. Again, personally, I don't believe it. I do tend to lean more toward the 3 levels. And the reason for that is you can see a progression from level 1 to level 2, and again from level 2 to level 3. I experienced that myself. There were a couple of techniques that I used to do in level 2 that I didn't really feel. I didn't feel the energy cycle in my hands. The people I treated weren't feeling it. And then all of a sudden I get to level 3 and boom, it's a whole nother world. So I have seen that progression. I have experienced it myself. Now, for those that say there is a 4th level or higher levels of Reiki, uh, I'm an engineer. Okay, I live in the logical world. Um, I can show progression from level 1 to level 2, and then again from level 2 to level 3. If there's a level 4 or higher, let's see the progression. If you can access more of the energy with higher levels, then you should be able to do more. And I don't see it. Nobody's doing anything more than what most of us are doing in level 3. So when somebody comes up with a level 4 that shows me there is a progression and there's more to do, I will be happy to be in that class.
Okay, good to know. That cleared that one up, so thanks for that. We were having a phone call the other day where the topic came up kind of about these superstitions sort of around the attunement process. So, um, and I'm sure you've gotten these questions before. Do you believe that people must remove jewelry before an attunement?
No, I didn't even know that exists as a requirement, if you will. Uh, I've had multiple teachers. None of them ever mentioned anything like that. So, what did I know when I started? I did what I was taught. I learned as I went. I did a lot of research, and I never came across that. And then all of a sudden, and again over time, people used to ask me, should I remove my jewelry specifically? And I said, why? you know, and the belief is that certain metals can block the energy. Well, again, engineer, I go by data points. I've attuned hundreds of people. I've never had them take off any jewelry from a finger to an ear to wherever the jewelry might be, a necklace. I've never had anybody take anything off. And I can honestly say the attunements work very, very well. Okay, so I like to joke in class when somebody asks that. I say, well, you know what? The energy is blocked by $20 bills. Please pass all your $20 bills up to me. And of course, I usually get somewhat of a laugh, but then they realize, yeah, wait a minute. Is it really necessary? And again, that's the bottom line for me. Is it a bad thing? Probably not. But is it necessary? No. No, I don't believe so.
It's true. Now, we talked before about how you come from a background of the Jewish faith, and I'm also grounded in Islam. And so, when both of our faith traditions, fasting is part of a spiritual element to a lot of faiths in general. Do you recommend fasting for spiritual purposes before an attunement?
Before an attunement, no. Generally speaking, yes. It's a great practice. It's many religions, many spiritual practices have fasting. Um, it is a cleansing. It's not a bad thing at all. For an attunement, it is not necessary. You know, um, If you want to do it, that's fine. Look, one of the most complimentary things I say about Reiki is it's so complimentary. I mean, I've had people who are very much into crystals and they want to hold their crystals during an attunement. Is that necessary? No, it's not necessary, but hey, good for them. Why not? Let's do it. So it's the same thing with fasting. If you think it will help you and that's part of your system, your beliefs, then absolutely go for it. But is it necessary? And the answer to me again is no.
Okay. This is a personal question that I had because in my Reiki 1 class, which was not with you, it was with another teacher, she had not mentioned fasting per se, but taking a fast from media, so social media, technology, not listening to the radio, not watching the news in 3 days leading up to the attunement. And um, going off with the technology question, do you also recommend removing watches or phones or other electronics that are in the room with the attunement?
No, no, no. Again, too many data points here to suggest that's not necessary. And I'm not just talking about my experience. I do get on the internet and I see what others are doing, and there's been no energy blocks from a cell phone. Um, you know, is it a bad practice? No, I can't say. If it makes you feel better, of course, obviously. One of the things that's very important in Reiki is to be comfortable, not only in the physical sense, but in the mental and emotional sense. And if that makes you feel more comfortable, of course, I would never stop anybody from doing anything like that. But again, there's too many attunements being performed that tell me it's just not the case.
Got it. Thank you. Now, can you talk about the moments right before giving a Reiki treatment? Is there a particular prayer that you say, or what about a mantra? Do you invoke an entity or call upon something when you do Reiki?
I have many times. I like the practice of it, but I don't do it on a regular basis. Okay. Um, there are times when my son, um, his liver values were going up, which is the wrong way. Okay. And I would be treating him sometimes for hours. And yes, I did prayers, I did meditations. I was so focused that if the walls had collapsed, I probably would not have noticed. Okay. I do like the practice of it. But unfortunately, there are so many different religions, spiritual practices. It's impossible to find one that works for everybody. Do you need to do a prayer? No, you do not. You know, does it help you connect spiritually? Yes, it certainly can. No doubt about it. But again, that's up to you individually. It's not something a Reiki teacher can say, you have to do this, because you don't have to do it. Because I can't, I never go in my classes, I never go around the room and say, what do you believe? What do you believe? What do you believe? What do you believe? Because Reiki is for everyone.
Right.
That's not only my business name, but that's my philosophy. Reiki is for everyone. Well, how many billions of people on the planet right now? And obviously there's not one system fits all. So I don't think I would never stop anybody, I should say, from doing it. I would encourage it even, but if somebody did not want to do it, it would not be incorrect.
Okay, good to know. And I'm sure that is very helpful for a lot of people who are unsure about if Reiki, is for them. Um, You taught me about the energy cycle in our class. So, my last question for you is, can you explain what an energy cycle is and what the pattern looks like?
Sure. Well, energy goes in a cyclical manner. It goes kind of up and down. If you can see that, up and down, like a wave, up and down. We call the up part a rise, and then we call the down part or the descending part the fall. One rise and one fall is one energy cycle as it's defined. So what is an energy cycle? Well, basically the way to describe it is if you put your hands on somebody, to treat with Reiki, and You do not feel anything just yet in your hands, but then all of a sudden your hands will get a little warmer, a little warmer. They might start tingling, they might start throbbing, whatever the sensation is. And then all of a sudden it will kind of peak. It will actually go through that rise and stop right here. And then in a matter of, a few minutes, it will actually decrease. You'll get the distinct rise, you'll get the fall. Okay, so one energy cycle lasts about 3 to 5 minutes. So that's the rule of thumb when you're doing a full body treatment on somebody. Most systems of Reiki say there's 12 primary positions. So if you did every position for approximately 5 minutes, or one energy cycle to be more specific, you're treating that person for about an hour. Now, the thing about the energy cycle is it's how you can guide yourself to moving to another position. When that energy cycle is finished, it's time to move to another position. Now, if you're treating just one position, let's say you have a bad knee and you're just going to put your hands on your knee, well, you could keep your hands there for 10 hours. You'll get a lot of rises, a lot of falls, a lot of energy cycles. As an engineer, this is one of my favorite parts about Reiki, because when we do demonstrations at health shows or mind, body, spirit type expositions or wherever, I usually will have somebody sit in a chair and I'll stand behind them and I'll put my hands sort of like this, on the back of their neck or shoulders. And they'll say, wow, I can feel that warmth, energy, whatever. And I say, that's Reiki. And I explained a little bit, what's going on. And they just sit back and enjoy it. And then sure enough, the energy cycle finishes and they think I've removed my hands. And they say, well, what'd you remove your hands for? And I just tap them on the shoulder. No, my hands are still there. So they actually think I've removed my hands, which tells me something is clearly going on. It's not my energy. It's not their energy. Everybody, will say, well, sure, I can feel it. It's body heat. Sure, of course, but it's constant. Unless you're sick, I think it's 98.6 degrees, so you certainly wouldn't feel anything warmer, and you most certainly wouldn't feel it cool off. And that's an energy cycle, and that's kind of a key to doing Reiki treatments.
Thank you for that perspective and helping really distinguish the difference between the cycle versus just regular body heat, because we, give off heat. So thank you. And I really appreciate the scientific perspective, as I'm sure many others do who believe in the scientific method and, and other concepts like that. So thank you so much, Neil. We have a lot more questions for next time.
All right. Well, thank you, Leena. This was fun. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll look forward to next time.
Okay.
Goodbye.